So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for How to Uncover the Hidden Job Market with Networking. And today's presentation is led by Leanne Rod, who's the Chief Talent Officer for Flex Professionals. She has more than 20 years' experience in learning and development, coaching, sales, marketing, and entrepreneurship. Throughout her career, she has advocated for flexible work options to help professionals stay engaged and purposeful in their careers, and as a career coach and advisor, helps job seekers develop the skill sets they need to convey their value and pursue meaningful roles. Leanne has an MS in Training and Development from Lesley University, a BA from the University of Vermont, and is a board-certified professional and career coach. And I again want to thank the Friends of the Library for sponsoring almost all of our programs here at the library. So all 80 of us who are watching live and the many more that will watch the recording, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Leanne for joining us this afternoon. And Leanne, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Robert, and applause back to the library for sponsoring these amazing career programs. We are so lucky to have you and others in the area that provide this type of programming. It's so beneficial. So glad to be here today talking about networking, which is usually when I'm talking to people who are looking for their next job, it is not their favorite thing to do. So I'm really excited to share just some of the tips and insights that we've garnered over the years. And I'm glad to be back. For people who I haven't met before through this Tewksbury Library program, just a little bit about Flex Professionals so that you know where we're coming from and what our context is for preparing and presenting this kind of information. So we are a staffing firm. We partner with organizations who are open to leveraging flexibility to create a hiring advantage, which can be really important, especially in some fields. And we work with businesses and nonprofits, but basically for the people who are looking for jobs through our organization, we're hoping that we help people remain in the workforce who are looking for flexibility, return to work after a career break, and gain either the skills or the confidence and the tactical pieces for their next step, like this webinar, or transition into a new field. And over the last 15 years, we've worked with literally thousands of employers in both DC and Boston, which are our two metro markets. And we vet jobs that are coming in from our clients that are part-time. Some of them are full-time flexible location mostly. We have some project-based and looking at both remote and on-site with a lot of hybrid in between. That is probably 80% of what we're seeing right now. We have monthly meetups for people who want to have more conversation and talk to one another, talk to us about what they're looking for, and maybe want to learn what it's like to work with a staffing agency as part of your job search. And we are a no-charge option for people who are looking for roles. So I've got a QR code at the end. If you do want to sign up for our weekly jobs newsletter, we'd love to put you on our list and send the new jobs that we have that are opening up each week. So with that, I will move right into the agenda today. Just talking about, I've got a little bit of high level stats to share, but then we're going to talk about a networking plan, a little bit about remote networking tools, since that is how we're doing a lot of networking these days, effective networking and communication strategies. And then we won't have a chance to get into some small group conversations today, but definitely some Q&A. So hopefully you've got your questions ready and raring to go. So I'm sure that a lot of you have heard this before, that about 80% of all jobs are found through networking. It's not just networking usually. Usually there's a networking piece, there's an application piece, but when we have a personal connection or a professional connection within a company, the chance of getting that job, that 1 in 7 referred job seeker versus 1 in 100 is so much higher, which is why we really focus on networking. That leaves about 20% of roles that are filled solely through an online job board or an ad. And that also depends on whether somebody has already been identified for that job, right? Or is it even a real job that's getting posted? Because we hear a little bit today about, those ghost job advertisements. So the number one way that people apply for jobs, and I'm sure that many people here in the same can identify with this, is you open up Google Jobs, you open up Indeed, wherever you're going to look for your jobs, hopefully at Flex Professionals, and you apply online, right? It's the same thing. The first thing we do in a job search is we dust off our resumes. It's kind of the number one way that we start. If we do the math, if that's the way that most people are looking for jobs, and it's that 20% that are filled solely through that method, it's really limiting to what we are going to be able to be considered for. And so networking comes into play greatly. It's also a way to connect with small businesses. More than 90% of the businesses in the United States are under 250 employees. And it's usually more than 50%, sometimes more than 60% of our annual growth in jobs. So it's really important. The way to get to know those companies typically aren't through the big job boards, because those are expensive. And so your network can be very helpful there. And then lastly, about 40% of jobs just aren't advertised. And so if you haven't experienced this, you may have heard from one of your network contacts who had an informational interview that led to another conversation, maybe another conversation after that, where someone put the dots together or connected the dots and said, hey, you've got a skill that I'm looking for. Would you be open to X? Or creating a job and creating an opportunistic hire for someone because it's the right time, and they're meeting the right person. So networking is really key. What is networking? I want to reframe it just a little bit, because what I'm not talking about when I'm talking about networking today is going to a giant room filled with hundreds of people, or even a big Zoom room filled with hundreds of people with that hello, my name is, name tag. It might be that, but it's going to more likely be one-to-one conversations or small group conversations, right? Something that is very, where you can have the conversation and it's not transactional. We're not collecting business cards. So I would just invite you to think of networking as sharing information in that one-to-one environment or in a small group, and really bringing that curiosity about what people do and connecting on an ongoing basis. Definitely important during a job search, even important when you're not necessarily looking for that next job, because we're always in a job search, right? But it could be important for career development. You can gain relationships, intelligence about what's going on in your own company or in your industry. It might be for business development, learning, getting the inside tracks on new trends or things that are happening. You might be serving as a resource to someone else. And remember, this is kind of a give, take conversation. And so you can give to other people, providing resources for them. And maybe some point in the future, you'll be asking them to serve as a resource for you. And then referrals, not just for business, but networking and job search connections in general. And what I find in talking to people who are either new to the job seeking scene, right? They've just landed here, or maybe haven't done a networking in a while, is that it can kind of feel stale. It's like one of those skills that we've got to dust off and remember how to do it. And it gets easier the more we do it. And so if you can just kind of keep that in mind as you're starting to think about your own networking plan, just know that if it does kind of feel a little bit rusty to you, that it's going to get easier as you move forward. So we talked about the first step being to develop this networking plan. And like a job search, hopefully you've carved out time where you've got your weekly schedule, and when you're doing different activities for your job search, hopefully your networking plan is going to fall into the same vein, where you'll dedicate the time, you'll set some goals each week, people that you're going to talk to, or maybe events that you might even be actually going to in person. But from a basic standpoint for your plan, you really want to make it multi-pronged. And so it might be a large event where you don't know anybody, or you're getting to know, especially if you're in a career transition, getting to know people in a new industry, combined with one-to-one conversations, which might be an in-person coffee, it might be a Zoom chat, whatever mode you can coordinate with the people that you want to meet. You want to definitely go wide and deep, but with some priorities, and we're gonna talk about that. And just know that this is the long game. You are putting out some feelers. You're going to ask people for some time, and sometimes, as you know, time when you're working versus time when you're looking for a job can feel very different. And so know that it may take a little bit of time for people to get back to you or be able to schedule something because of their demands. And you may find yourself in that situation as well. But you really want to figure out what you're going to dedicate each week to networking, and find some way to track your activity. This is going to do a couple of things, right? It's going to do a lot. It's going to keep you organized. And if you set a goal of, say, I want to reach out and have 2 Zoom conversations a week, or maybe 1 in-person coffee and 2 Zoom connections, you want to set yourself the goal. You're going to build your priority list of who you want to contact and connect with, if they're in your network currently, or if they're at specific companies. But you're also going to find, as you go through that, is that sense of accomplishment. And you're going to feel good, because even when you're not getting a job yet, you're going to be taking action toward getting a job, and that will feel good. It will feel like you've accomplished this piece of it. The other thing that I like about tracking your activity is that it's always nice when you do land your job to go back and look at the people who you talked to, who helped you along the way, send off a quick thank you, because the next time we're in this same cycle, we'll go through another job search eventually. They'll remember that you were genuine in your conversation and followed up. And for most people, not for everybody, but in person is a way to be most effective in your networking. So if you have the chance to meet in person with somebody, it takes more time, right? You've got to dedicate the travel. You might have to park, get in, and maybe, you're asking for 30 minutes, and sometimes it goes a little bit over. They tend to be a little bit more productive than online networking conversations. So whatever keeps you motivated is best, and whatever is available. But just know that the in-person can be a little bit more effective. And you really want to start with your inner circle. That these are the people that you're most comfortable talking to. It might be somebody who you just talked to 3 or 4 months ago, having an update, letting them know what you've done, who you've talked to, because that conversation can be different every time. So start with your inner circle and expand outward. And in thinking about your inner circle or your personal network, you want to think about who you've worked with, who in a paid capacity, maybe in a volunteer capacity, who are most likely to say yes to your request to have a meeting. You never know who somebody's going to know. So even if they're not working for a company or even in the industry that you're pursuing, they probably know people who they can refer you to. And that warm connection is going to be a lot easier to get that next meeting from. So especially if you have people in your network who are just natural connectors, or the people who are always wanting to give you the name of their electrician, or something, another type of resource, but they want to connect people together. So start with your closest, strongest, tightest relationship, who your connectors are, reconnecting with people from your past. Remember, if they worked with you in a job that was, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, they remember you from that position. And so if we work with a lot of people who are coming back to work after a career break, and this can be kind of a challenge to reconnect with a kind of an older, stale feeling network. But just know that they remember you from your past accomplishments, and they don't know this last 7 years or 6 years where you've been doing something different. So reconnecting. And it can even be people that you're not working with professionally. We all interact with people in our community in some way, shape, or form. Some people have some really specific volunteering that they're doing. So professional contacts are great, but really think about what the people in your entire network are doing. They don't have to know you professionally to have a conversation, right? And maybe they can get to know you professionally. So average American has about 634 contacts. Hopefully you're reaching out to at least 10 to 20% of those folks as you're starting your job search. LinkedIn is a great place to start. You remember the goal is to have one-on-one conversations, hopefully in person. So we're using it as a tool as opposed to a place, just to continue the online conversation or even chatting back and forth. But when you are getting ready to network, hopefully you've done a little bit of work through this program or others to update your LinkedIn profile. You want to, just a couple of basics about LinkedIn, you want to have a completed profile. So if someone gets your request, if you're reaching out through LinkedIn and they check your profile, they can easily see what it is that you do. A photo is great. People connect with one another through their eyes and their faces. And so if you're comfortable putting a photo up, it's a really great way to make that kind of conscious or subconscious connection. Definitely making sure that you're connected with people that you already know on LinkedIn. So just do take a yellow legal pad, write down all the people that you've worked, the things that you've done, the people that you've met, and start reaching out for those connections on LinkedIn. You want to take the time probably to research the companies that you're targeting to see who works there. Do I have any second connections on LinkedIn where I can ask for an introduction from my neighbor, Sue knows somebody who works at Keurig Dr. Pepper, and I really want to work there. I want to ask her, is this somebody that you know well, would love an introduction? So researching your companies and being targeted, asking for intros through those mutual connections. LinkedIn sometimes will give you some insights as to people that you may know when you're looking I think it's on the right-hand column when you're on the platform on the computer. And they're using their algorithms to figure out, well, these may be people that you want to connect with as well. So you can pay attention to that. And then through joining groups, participating in, conversations, sharing information, you'll find other connections, especially if you're targeting it for the industry or job function that you are wanting to do in your next job. So when you're reconnecting with your professional network, you want to go into this very, very broadly, not just the people who were, maybe in the next cubicle or the same floor, division, department. Who were your customers who you worked with, your vendors or your clients? Those people may be in the same jobs. They maybe have moved on to a different job, but they knew you, right? And remember, this is networking. So it's not necessarily going to be just the people that we did the work with. Think very broadly. You may want to take a look at what people who used to work for you are doing. If you have moved on to a different job, enter in a job search, or if you've taken a career break for, say, caregiving, for example, and are going back to paid work, people who were in a position that may have been a little bit below your level when you last were at an organization may be in a position to hire. So it really can pay to look and see what people are doing currently who remember you as your professional self when they knew you at that job. Leveraging your strong identity groups can be another great way to have a little bit of that warm connection. I always like to tell people to start with their alumni connections, just because if you have a really strong alumni community, I've had some outreach from people from my alma mater, mostly my undergrad at UVM, who reach out, and I'll always say, sure, I've got 20 minutes to spend with an alumni who wants to just chat on a networking call, even if I don't know who they are. We've got that common background. So start with your alumni groups. Some alumni career centers have ways to facilitate those conversations. I know UVM has a connection. I think it's on LinkedIn, but it's a way to connect alumni to one another. They may have a local chapter in your group. So if your school was not in the Boston area, see if they've got a local chapter that you can connect with in person. There are LinkedIn groups. We've got online, directories that you can look and see who's part of an organization or maybe has a certification. And then by attending local events. You want to remember, we're trying to get in person. So we're using whatever we can technologically to see who we might want to connect with to move into meeting with someone one-on-one. Another way to look at your network and maybe expand it is through smart volunteering and upskilling. So if you are someone who is an active volunteer, you've been a pair of hands, once, twice, or maybe, 20 times, it's okay to look at your volunteer activity and really target it toward what will benefit the organization, but also benefit you in your job search. So if you can align your volunteer activities with maybe something that you want to learn, so you can demonstrate, proficiency in something when you're having an interview, or grow your network, that's great. I've known people who have started volunteering somebody and worked somewhere and worked themselves into a job, or as you're, working side by side and you're doing something, you're having a conversation and you realize that you've got a connection that you didn't know was there. So your volunteer connections can be great professional contacts as well as just through your volunteer work. And maybe even exploring internships or offering up your services while you're doing a job search. Sometimes when somebody sees the work being done, they're maybe more likely to refer you out to someone and say, hey, I know my friend Kevin, he did website work at this nonprofit where I was also volunteering. I should get you his contact information for this job. So think about your volunteering and upskilling opportunities that you have. And then within an industry, I know I have used this in my past when I was breaking into a new industry. I joined the local chapter of it was NAPO, which is the National Association of Professional Organizers. I had a little organizing business in the past, and I volunteered with the chapter because I wanted to find out, I wanted to get to know people. I wanted to be the person at the welcome desk at the event who was checking people in so that I could get to know people and start to network and figure out how I needed to learn. So joining your local professional organizations helps you gain knowledge. You're going to get the lingo. You may, like I said, offer some volunteer services if you have time. And it's also going to help expand your network within that community, which can be so important when you're in a career transition of trying to meet new people. So if you are in that last bucket of transitioning into either a new job function or a new field or industry, it can also help you not only make those networking contacts, but kind of be in the know. You're going to start to hear what the top trends are and what people are talking about. Where else do they network? Maybe it's going to expand the areas where you can go and drop in or start attending. You'll see things on social media, LinkedIn especially. What are those topics? It's going to not only help you increase your own knowledge of what's going on in the industry, but when you're using LinkedIn as a platform to share expertise, which can be really important for showing that you're dedicated to this next step, you'll have material to draw from. What are people sharing? And then attending events and meeting people in person. So in terms of target companies and connecting with employees of those companies, LinkedIn, again, can be a really great resource. People sometimes ask if I think it's worth it to have the premium version of LinkedIn. Excuse me. This can be one area, even if you're just trialing it for 30 days, where it can be advantageous because you get a little bit more depth of information on who works at different companies and what their connections are with the paid version than you do with the free version. But take a look at the free version first, see if you can get what you need. But if you have a list of target companies, and hopefully you do, you can use LinkedIn to go on and see what's their corporate culture like, who works there, what are their job titles, where have they been, what kind of work did they do prior to that? If you identify a role that you're really targeting at a company, who's in that role now and where did they come from? What's their story? And so it can give you some insights into, okay, either a company hires this way and I'm really targeting this company, so I want to be aware of that. Or, maybe you're looking at a job and you think that's the one that you're going for, but it may not be the right career track for that company. So it can give you that intel. Sometimes people post out on what events they're attending, so you can get some information about where to connect with people who are in the industry or company that you're targeting. They might be hosting events that you want to know about. You want to definitely take, some people are writing LinkedIn newsletters or other types of content creation, especially if these are people that you're hoping to get to know. It can be helpful to know where they're coming from and what they're writing about. And you want to also remember to pay attention to your second connections. These, great if you have first connections when you're doing your research. But if you can find some second connections that are genuine, where someone says, yes, I actually know that person who's in my LinkedIn network and I can refer you over to them, that you're taking advantage of that. Again, looking for alumni, that warm connection that you already have who are working at that company. LinkedIn is really good about telling you that, whether you're looking just from a research standpoint or you're looking at the LinkedIn job page, it is clear. It will tell you there are 3 alums from your university that work at this company. And you want to make sure you take a look at who they are. Can they be part of your network? And again, they don't have to know you professionally. It could be not even a warm connection, but a cold connection. But when you network this way in a very targeted way toward a company or an industry that it was in your focus, you may find yourself an advocate and somebody who can at least get your virtual resume, your actual paper resume to the top of the pile so that you can be noticed and you're more likely to be interviewed informationally or even for a specific role. Okay, we're going to move forward just to some strategies around networking. And I am just going to check my time here. Okay, great. We're doing great. So on the networking and communications strategies, you really want to go public. People sometimes are not comfortable, for example, putting up that LinkedIn, I'm available, the green banner on your LinkedIn profile. They want to do it in a little bit more subtle way so that they're not necessarily putting it out there. To the extent that you're comfortable and you can kind of go public with your job search with a defined direction, the more people who know you're looking, the more chances you'll have, the more people who might see that banner on LinkedIn to think about, okay, who are the connections? I know this person. I see that they're looking for a job. Do I know anybody that does what they do? Right. And so in person, again, the meetings are most effective. And then you want to, as you're reaching out and having these conversations, think about this sense of purpose, right? So it's not just a coffee catch up, how are your kids doing in college? Great. What's going on in life? You really want to prepare like you would for someone that you might not know as well. And there are lots of resources, do either, through your AI searches, if you're using ChatGPT or another platform, and to help with your job search, you can come up with a list of questions that you might want to ask somebody depending on what the context is. But you want to do some preparation. You want to look at their LinkedIn profile. If you can see their network, maybe take a peek at who they know, who they're connected with. So if somebody really stands out during that conversation, you might be able to say, hey, I saw you're connected with Robert at the library. And I really want to connect with Robert. Would you mind making an introduction? So preparation, make sure that you follow up with just like a job interview with a quick thanks for getting together. And if there was any action that, this person made a connection for you, just making sure that the follow through happens on what that action is. And really view it as information gathering, having the conversation, being curious about the person that you're talking to, what's going on in their world, absolutely letting them know what's going on in your world, but not having it be the starter of, I just really need a job. Here's my resume. That puts a lot of pressure on somebody when you're networking with them, as opposed to something that maybe is just a little bit more of a subtle next step and is a lot easier for somebody to actually do. So leading in with the curiosity, having the conversation, asking them how you can help them. Is there anything that they're looking for in their day-to-day? It might not even be a professional ask. It might be something like, yeah, I need a Cape house that, for an extended family that will sleep 15 people. You never know what somebody's looking for. So at least creating the ask. And at the same time, you also want to be clear on what your objective is. So it's a little bit of an art, little bit of science in putting together the conversation, but you want to make sure that you're clear on what you're pursuing so that when somebody says, okay, what are you looking for? That you've got an answer that is fairly succinct, right? And is full of the value that you're going to bring to an organization so that they can remember and align you with the right opportunities. So you want to be clear on what you're looking for and what your ask is going to be. Because if that person that you're networking with, they may not be in a position to help you with their company, or they may not have the right opportunities. But what referrals are you possibly angling for? Maybe you've seen somebody in their LinkedIn network that you know who you want to connect with. That's one. You may get a referral to somebody that was in their LinkedIn or not, but who they think is going to be a nice next step for you. So asking for those referrals. And maybe it's not even a person. It might be a company or an industry group. Who else is in this space? What industry groups do you attend? What value did that add to your intelligence or knowledge or networking? But just really thinking about what your ask is going to be. So the art of the ask. We talked a little bit about warm connections. Those are always the great ones to start with. That might be a cold connection. You're reaching out to someone by email, maybe through a LinkedIn connection request. That you get a little bit of space there to say what you're asking for. It might be in follow-up to a networking event or job fair, but just having a really warm, direct ask, but something that is easy enough for somebody to say yes to, right? So this is from my colleague Sheila. Susan Smith was nice enough to give me your name. We've been friends. Give them the context, and then what the outreach is for. So I'm returning to the marketing field after a 5-year break, and I want to be deliberate and strategic about my return. I really like when people use this in their outreach, because it tells the person on the receiving end, through that being deliberate and through that being strategic, that they're not reaching out to just anybody. They chose you, that they're reaching out to, because you're going to offer something that could be strategic for them. That's a nice thing to say about somebody, right? That you think they can be strategic in your search. So I love that line, and really having it be specific on what your ask is. Would you be open to meeting with me 20 minutes? I know you're busy, so even 20 minutes would be much appreciated. Sometimes people write back and say, hey, why don't we just grab coffee? I'm here, we're close together, or, let me know. I work from home on Fridays, whatever that might be. So that's one example. We talked a little bit about so many meetings now being remote. So this is an example of how to reach out if you have the presenter's contact information from a remote meeting, right? Somebody who's a panelist, somebody who's a speaker. These can be really well-connected people to make part of your network. Maybe you're not starting with the ask for the meeting like this example does. Maybe you're asking for just to connect on LinkedIn at the point where they may not know you, but at least they have context in how they may have met you. You were part of a group of 100 people attending an event. They're not going to have met everybody, but you can follow up and say, here's what I liked about your presentation. Would you be open to connecting on LinkedIn, or even taking it to that next step? Would you be open to a phone or video conversation? Value your insights on X, Y, or Z, right? So an example of a remote meeting outreach. And then during the event, you want to be selective about which meetings you're going to from a virtual networking standpoint. Hopefully you're targeting ones where if you're going for networking and not necessarily for information gathering, but specifically for networking, you want to have a way to connect with everybody else who's on the call. So you want to make sure that there's going to be a way to do that. But really figuring out which ones you want to go to. Have you attended in-person events in the past, and you may know somebody online who would be a warmer connection for you, and able to meet in that different mode of meeting. So do your research. You want to look at industry group events, again, maybe some alumni events or volunteer circles with a focus on networking. A lot of events are focused on learning, which is great, like this one. And then some really do. Our Friday meetups, which we have once a month, are focused on networking. And so really targeting what those can be. And then maximizing your time there. So it's passive. If you're, if you have a learning followed by networking, you are absorbing, but then you're also asking questions. Maybe you're commenting positively on other people's comments or questions and being helpful in the chat, making your, again, coming up with the value that you bring into that that environment. Might be a tip, it might be a resource that you're offering. So people do save chats after the event, like you'll all receive from Robert from today. So having that resource can be a way and lead toward networking. Follow up, who did you meet? Thank yous and connections. And remember that your goal is really to work toward those one-to-one conversations. So I don't think I really have to spend a lot of time here. I think most people now are pretty proficient on Zoom. You may not have spent as much time on something like Google Meet or Microsoft Teams. And it really pays to just take a minute, if you've, I've been on Zoom now for 5 years, what else do I need to know about Zoom? But just take a minute in this moment of your job search where you're making maybe a first impression when you do meet somebody on Zoom to think about, okay, what does my audio sound like? What does my lighting look like? What's in my background? Is there a way that I can optimize that? Can I make a small investment to get a slightly better microphone or maybe some headphones? Honestly, the headset that comes with your, I have an Apple iPhone, the ones that, well, they used to come with them. The ones that you can buy for them now are pretty good. You probably don't need to invest too much more than that. But then on the other side, you want to make sure that you're pretty familiar with the technology on the platform. Microsoft Teams has a free version. Zoom, of course, does as well, and Google Meet. And you may have used all of these before, but if you haven't, or if it's been a while since you've been on one of those platforms and you haven't meet up with someone who is really a high value conversation, just taking a few minutes to make sure that you know where some of the features are in that platform before you get on the call can be really helpful. And it also shows you as being technologically proficient. So that's a plus as well. So practicing the technology, getting camera and a meeting ready. You might want to choose a virtual background. There are tons of virtual backgrounds out. If anybody's a Canva user, they have so many great images and you can find them in lots of places and lots of repositories. Thinking about your naming, which I didn't do correctly in this webinar. I'm just noticing now I should have put in my company and my, I like to use my gender pronouns. So, but thinking about how you're naming yourself and just again, knowing where some of those basic features exist on the platform that you're using. Excuse me. So we're going to spend just a tiny bit of time, I think we've got a few more minutes here, talking about incorporating AI into your strategy. This really, there's some good in AI, right? So especially in job search, there are some ways that you can leverage AI tools to help you be more effective in what you're doing. And networking is one of them. So I don't think I really have to define what ChatGPT is for anybody here. You probably know it. But just one reminder is that no matter what AI platform you're using, or if you haven't used it, please go out and do a little bit of experimentation to see how it works, is that the better the prompt, right, the better response you're going to get. On the free version, you'll still get great information. You do get better information on the paid version if you have the investment to be able to make during your job search. But just you can get into a little bit more conversational cadence with your AI friend. But it's really the value is in the prompt. So you want to think about giving the tool as much context as you can as you're starting to leverage it. And here are just some examples. I live in Boston and I want to network with professionals in the marketing industry or marketing field, excuse me. Give me a list of local associations, professionals, women's groups, professional groups in general, or other networking groups that specialize in sustainability, right? So, and you want to comb through the responses, because one of the cons from AI is that it will base its answer on what preceded it in the question and what it knows to be true, and it may not have the answer for you. So it may fill in something that's not true. But a lot of the information that you're going to get is going to be true and accurate. So it's a great way to do research. Another one, can you help me create an Excel spreadsheet to track my networking activity, right? People have done this before, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Another one, this is more resume focused, but here's my resume. Copy and paste the not personalized portion of your resume. I'm attending a networking event where I'm going to be talking with mid-level IT professionals in the finance space. I want to transition from human resources to corporate sustainability. Can you develop a 1-minute elevator pitch to highlight my transferable skills and expresses my desire to transition? I mean, how helpful is that, right? That is like talking to a coach in a box almost. As long as you know how to frame the prompt and get the answer that you want, once it comes back, if it's not what you're looking for, you can then prompt it again to say, not quite what I'm looking for. Can you make this less chatty? Can you make this more professional tone? Whatever you need to do to correct it. So it's great for idea generation. It's not great for doing 100% of the work, but for idea generation, it's really, really helpful. Okay, so just to wrap up on networking, just a couple of last tips. Follow-up is really critical. So if you do meet people and you say you're going to connect, take that next step and actually connect. It's, I don't know if it's worse than not networking, but you want to make sure that you're doing your follow-up, sending thank yous after your meetings. It can be a really quick text message if you've got their cell phone. It can be just a quick LinkedIn message, maybe an email, but definitely personalized within a day or two. Following up on referrals, following up on failures and rejections. This is more about maybe applying and interviewing in a job. I don't know if anybody here has done this, but I certainly know people. We've hired people who didn't get the job in the first round, but then something happens. Either it's not the right fit with the person who's hired, or a role opens that's adjacent and is in a really similar skill set to the person that I have interviewed. So the people who take that extra step, even when they don't get the job and they're making me part of their network, they might be more top of mind when I'm looking at that next role. So just thinking about, how people who have interviewed you but not hired you might be part of your network. Varying communications as much as you can. And then just keeping people updated on your progress and successes. If they've been part of your success, it's always great to let them know that. It's definitely a long game. And if you are thinking about getting a new job, but you haven't started yet, this is a perfect time to start your networking plan and getting to know what the job market is like. Every point in time is just a little bit different. If you are still trying to figure out exactly what that next step is, this can be a great way. Networking can be a great way also to gain intel. I'm thinking about a transition into project management. I wonder if I have to get a PMP certification. I probably should network with a few people who have done that or made that transition or work in that field and figure out what that investment is. Is it worth it? Should I be making it? Or even just what a day in the life is like of a dentist before you go to dental school, et cetera. Setting small weekly goals, it can be, give yourself a pat in the back every week when you've done your job and you really feel good about making some progress. And then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the more you network, the easier it gets. It's hard to start sometimes talking about ourselves and our value that we're bringing to a job, but the more you do it, it will start rolling off your tongue more and more. And just realizing that it is a conversation, the give, ask. Thank you to Jane Matson for this tip, but really asking the other person what you can do to help them will go a long way. So we're going to move over to Q&A. I do want to just share one exciting event that we have coming up this fall, if I'm able to. We've got a author talk. We do these once or twice a year. And our fall author talk is with Catherine Solomon, who wrote the book Ambition Redefined. She has a new book coming out in January called The 4 Jobs Club, Caring for It All, Kids, Aging Parents, Home and Career. And it's conversations with, it's all women in her book. She does focus on women at work, but women who have tips to share and strategies. So we're going to be talking to her in November, and it's a ways away, but through the end of September, there's a pre-sale period where she will mail you a advanced copy of her book. So check that out. There's a QR code here, and it's also on our website. And this is my contact information. Oh, this isn't my contact information. Sorry, Robert. This is updated from a presentation that one of my colleagues did. So I'm going to put my contact information into the chat, or you can send it out in your follow-up email. I apologize for that. But this is our website. So take a look. We have a weekly jobs newsletter that goes out every Wednesday. We put all of our new jobs that are posted there that go to the website. We put events that we're having or other resources. So take a look there, sign up for the newsletter. And with that, I will turn it over to Q, or actually ask for some questions.
So folks, let's give Leanne a big virtual round of applause for a great presentation. And let's take 12 minutes of questions. So Bob would like to know, are business cards still valued at in-person networking events?
Good question. I like business cards. I try to bring them with me when I'm networking. It is, a way to exchange information quickly. And then you've got all of the contact information in one place. I will say that it's about 50-50 in my experience, and yours might be a little bit different for people who don't have business cards, right? So not everybody does anymore. So in addition to business cards, my recommendation would be to get to know how to get to the QR code section of your LinkedIn app on your phone. If you can get there quickly, or have take a screenshot of the QR code like is on the screen now, it will look like that, which will lead to your LinkedIn profile. Then you can have some instant connections.
Bob also asks, or he notes, I was told not to show open to work on LinkedIn to other connections, but to only make it visible to recruiters. So what are your thoughts on open to work on LinkedIn? I think you did reference that, Leanne.
Yeah, I think it's a positive thing. I would, if someone's not comfortable with it, that's fine too. If you're doing a silent search, right? You're working and you're looking for a job, you're probably not going to want to use that badge on your LinkedIn profile to let say your boss know that you're looking for a new job. But if you are open to work, and you're not working at an organization, I think it's a valuable thing, because even if it's not somebody that you're reaching out or that you think to reach out to in your network, as you're active on the platform, your algorithms change as you comment, as you share, as you have conversations with people. It's like any other social media platform. It's going to look for patterns, and it's going to put people into your feed who the platform thinks that you are going to want to respond to. And it's going to do the same thing with your posts, and your picture is going to be there. So I think it can sometimes be a visual cue for people. They say, oh, I didn't know Ellen was looking for a job. I know that she's a lawyer. I have a friend who just mentioned to me at a dinner party last weekend that they're going to be hiring at that firm. And I'm going to reach out and see if she wants to make that connection. So I like it for that. But if you are in a job and you don't want to go public, I would definitely stick to the turning it on for recruiters only. LinkedIn says, and I do believe this from the searches that we've done, that when recruiters from your current company are searching on the platform, that you will not come up as open to work. So that would be my recommendation.
Anne says, I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn who does not have a photo on their profile. Is this a red flag?
So just off the top, I don't think not having a picture is a red flag. I think some people do make the choice that they don't want to share that information on a social media platform, and that's okay. I think I'd have to know a little bit more context about what the outreach is like. There definitely are some scams on LinkedIn. You have to do your homework. People, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If somebody's asking for information, oh, you look like you'd be great for this, we want to hire you, and they haven't even talked to you, or fill out this short form questionnaire. Oh, you're hired, just send us your social security number. So taking it into context, I think like you do in other areas of your life, is always very helpful, but I don't think not having a picture would be a red flag right off the top.
Brigham says, I used AI to generate questions to ask the hiring manager during an interview. Nancy says, thanks for the wonderful presentation. How do I register for your monthly networking event? Can you do this on your website?
you definitely can. Thanks for asking. We have an events section on the website, and the monthly meetups are listed there. The next one is in October. It's usually the second Friday of every month. So you can register there. They're free. And if you do sign up for our jobs newsletter, they're also listed about 2 weeks in advance of the event.
So someone says that when they get rejected, they often get automated emails with the notification of the rejection. So the messages are just standard and don't really give a reason as to why they're rejected. How should one go about contacting a company to, ask why they were rejected?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, you've gotten someone's contact information during your interview. I know we don't always have the ability to do that. If you're in an interview and somebody has set it up for you, so you don't have that person's direct contact information, it's totally fine to ask them, may I have your email so I can send you a follow-up in about a week? And if you have that email address and you've gotten an automated response from another address, you can always go back to the first one and say something like, hey, Robert, thank you for considering me for this role. I know you've made a hiring decision and are, moving forward with another candidate. I just wanted to let you know that if your needs change in the future, I'd love to have another conversation. Something really simple. If you have the contact information, chances are if it's an automated message, it's not going to go to a person on the way back, but hopefully you've gotten that along the way.
Excellent. Let's see. Let me jump over here. An anonymous attendee says, what is your opinion regarding sending a note to all of your LinkedIn connections as opposed to them individually? Some have tons of connections. I'm not sure if I fully understand. So let me read it again. What is your opinion regarding sending a note to all of your LinkedIn connections as opposed to them individually? Are you able to send a note all at once, like a generic note? I'm not sure.
I'm going to read between the lines, and I may not get this right, but it sounds like this is in the process of connecting on LinkedIn. You have the option to just, LinkedIn, when you first joined, it's like some other social media platforms where they want to make it easy for you to make those connections. So it might say, hey, can we just look at your address book and send out connection requests on your behalf, which you may or may not want to do, probably not. But B, they will say, okay, let's say you have 50 connections and they're going to give you some suggestions on who else you might want to connect with. They'll put that right on your screen. These are people you might want to connect with, and they make it easy. It's like connect, which might work. You're probably going to get more results when you connect with people with a note, especially if they're people that you don't know. If I get a connection request from somebody that I don't know and I don't know why they're connecting, I probably won't connect with them because I might think it's a sales connection. But if somebody says, hey, saw you at the Tewksbury Library program on Monday, would love to connect and be part of your network. I'm in, marketing, IT, whatever your field is, then I know why you're reaching out. So I think it is nice to put a personal note in those kinds of connections. And that may be what that question was driving at. I'm not sure.
Bill says, sometimes as hard as I try, I can't identify the hiring manager on LinkedIn. Is using any HR person or company recruiter okay, or is the hiring manager best? And does LinkedIn Premium show better results in that quest for the hiring manager?
So I'll go in reverse. LinkedIn Premium probably won't show you any more than non-premium does when a job is posted in terms of who the hiring manager is. So you can have that direct connection, because it only, we use LinkedIn to post jobs every once in a while, and it's only taking the information that we give it. And so it's going to show the recruiter who posted the job as opposed to the hiring manager. And I imagine that's the same in a company as well. So, if you don't know who the hiring manager is, certainly at larger companies, most applicants have to start with an HR screen. So if you can figure out which HR contact is the right one, send a little connection request or a message through. A lot of times people in HR have premium accounts, which means you can message them without being connected. So, it can pay to send a note as part of your networking to say, you know, hey, Bob, I just applied to this role that was on your company's LinkedIn profile. I, did one little sentence about what value you bring to the role. I'd love to connect here and learn more about the position. Some people will accept it, some people won't, but it's worth a try. So I think that's one approach. Better yet is if you can find a way to network into the company. If it's not a first connection that you already have, looking at who your second connections are and who they know could also give some intel like, okay, who is hiring for this role? How do I reach out to the person who is making the decision if they're open to that, right? And so having somebody who can do a little research for you can also help.
And I think our final question, or one of our final questions, will go to Diane. Are there any other advantages to using LinkedIn Premium? Are you an advocate for job seekers purchasing LinkedIn Premium, Leanne?
I am. It gives you more intel on the companies that you might be researching and how to make connections within those companies. I don't have the screen in front of me, so I'm not going to get all of the exact areas where you can find that out, but you can find out about corporate culture. You can learn a little bit more about who's in the competitive space of a company that you're targeting, so that you might also be looking for opportunities in the competitive environment if that's what interests you. So I think that's one advantage. You do get a few in-mail credits every month with the premium, and you also get to see who has looked at your profile if that's important to you. You get access to LinkedIn Learning, but I don't know if it's through Tewksbury. Probably, since there's so many resources, you can often get LinkedIn Learning through your library, even if it's with a Boston Public Library e-card, but certainly through your local library sometimes too. So those are the advantages that I know, and maybe there's more. I would check on LinkedIn and kind of do a side by side.
Yeah, so for LinkedIn Learning, we direct people to the Boston Public Library, get a free e-card, and you can access their databases, including LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah.
So it is 3 o'clock, Leanne. We'll start to wrap it up. Folks, let's give Leanne another big virtual round of applause for a great presentation. I put Leanne's email address in the chat. I'll also include it in the follow-up email. I put information about next week's webinar in the chat that will also go in the email. Next week, we're learning how to achieve career clarity. That is with career coach Shelley Piedmont, who's the founder of Career GPS, and she's been an HR professional for over 20 years. So very much looking forward to that one. Leanne, any last words to the audience before we officially wrap it up for the day?
Thank you for having me today. I really enjoyed being here, and I wish everybody all the best in every step of their job search. Learning along the way in hindsight can also be fun, but I wish everybody the best in finding their next job.
Yeah, great job, Leanne, as always. Folks, when you log off, those watching live, make sure to take the survey. So thanks so much, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their week. Thanks again, Leanne.
Thanks, Robert.
Bye.